Have you ever looked into her eyes and felt a storm you couldn't name? A sweetness that dulled your caution, a gaze that made you forget the edge of your own sword. Brother, this is not poetry. This is design. There is a realm of knowledge that modern man has abandoned, not because it is false, but because it is too costly to know. What you're about to discover will shatter every comfortable illusion you've built about relationships, power, and your own masculinity. You've been living a lie so profound, so carefully constructed, that questioning it feels like questioning reality itself. You've been taught to worship at the altar of feminine approval, to measure your worth by her smile, to build your kingdom on the shifting sands of her moods. But what if I told you that this very worship is what keeps you powerless, what transforms you from a king into a beggar, from a man into a satellite, orbiting someone else's emotional gravity? Socrates, the man who dared to question everything, understood something about the feminine nature that would make modern men uncomfortable. He didn't hate women, he simply refused to be blind to their nature. He saw through the veil of romance and sentiment to the underlying patterns, the biological imperatives, the strategic intelligence that operates beneath the surface of every interaction. And what he discovered was both terrifying and liberating. The feminine tests, selects, and adapts, but it does not build. That burden, that curse and crown belongs to you. The tragedy of modern masculinity is not that men desire women, but that they don't understand why they desire them. In this blindness, they make her into a god, and then blame her when she doesn't perform miracles. They seek completion in what was never meant to complete them, salvation in what was designed to test them. You call it love, she calls it timing. You call it destiny, she calls it selection. Think about the last time you felt that familiar ache, that desperate need for her attention, her validation, her touch. In that moment, you weren't experiencing love, you were experiencing addiction. You were revealing that your sense of self, your very identity, had become dependent on something outside your control. And in that revelation, you handed her a power she never asked for, and may not even want the power to determine your emotional state, your confidence, your very sense of worth. Socrates warned that the unexamined life is not worth living, but the unexamined desire is even more dangerous. Nowhere is desire more camouflaged than in the realm of relationships, where it wears the mask of devotion, sings like truth, and dances like destiny. But beneath this beautiful performance lies something far more primal: survival, selection, instinct. She is not consciously manipulating you, she is following programming millions of years in the making. While men seek truth, women often seek alignment, not with abstract principles, but with security, stability, and strength. This is not an insult, it's biological brilliance, but you must recognize it for what it is. Your intellect doesn't seduce her, your philosophical discussions don't make her heart race. Your ambition, your certainty, your command of your own reality, that does. But the moment you hand her the crown before wearing your own, the moment you elevate her above your mission, she will test you until you fall. Not because she's cruel, but because she's responding to what you've revealed, that your soul is for sale. The most dangerous moment in any man's life is when he begins to orbit the feminine instead of governing himself. You were not born to chase her moods like a weather vane spins in the wind. You were not created to decode her silences, to negotiate with her emotions, to sacrifice your principles on the altar of her comfort. Yet look around you. Observe the men in your life, perhaps observe yourself. How many live in a constant state of low-level anxiety about what she's thinking, feeling, wanting? How many have traded their clarity for her chaos, their mission for her attention? This is what Socrates meant when he spoke of the tyrannical soul, one led by appetite, always thirsty, never still. How many men today wear the suit of success while chained by the desperate need for feminine approval? How many build empires not for legacy, but to impress someone who would abandon those empires the moment a better option appeared? You think you're being romantic, she thinks you've lost your edge, and she's right. The bitter truth that no one wants to speak is this: she cannot love what she does not respect, and she cannot respect what she can control. When you make her emotions your compass, her approval your mirror, her affection your prize, you cease being a man and become a satellite. She may keep you around, but not because she wants to, because it's convenient. And one day convenience expires. The world is filled with men who thought they could win love through worship. But love is not won through worship, it's won through sovereignty. There's a profound difference between devotion and desperation, between love and addiction, between choosing someone and needing them. The man who needs her more than he needs himself cannot be trusted with her heart, because he's already proven he cannot be trusted with his own. This is where most men make their fatal error. They confuse her tests for cruelty, her boundaries for rejection, her natural selection process for manipulation. When she pulls away, they panic. When she goes silent, they grovel. When she threatens to leave, they abandon their principles to keep her. But these are not punishments, they are examinations. She is not trying to destroy your core, she is trying to locate it. And every time you fail these tests, every time you crumble under pressure, you lose a piece of her respect that can never be recovered. She will mirror your uncertainty back to you with alarming precision. If your confidence depends on her validation, she will sense it immediately. If your happiness requires her presence, she will feel the weight of that responsibility and eventually resent it. If your purpose dissolves the moment she disapproves, she will know that you're not a man, but a boy playing dress-up in masculine clothing. The most seductive lie of our time is that relationships should be based on equality of nature rather than complementarity of function. You've been told that she wants a partner who understands her feelings, who validates her emotions, who adapts to her needs. But deep in her bones, in the ancient part of her brain that predates civilization, she wants something else entirely. She wants to feel safe under the direction of a man who cannot be moved by her storms, who remains centered when she loses her center, who provides the stability that allows her feminine energy to flow freely. This doesn't mean becoming cold or domineering. It means becoming unshakable. It means developing an inner core so solid that external circumstances, including her moods, cannot knock you off balance. When she raises her voice, you remain calm. When she tests your resolve, you hold your ground. When she tries to make you choose between your mission and her comfort, you choose your mission, not to hurt her, but to remain the man she fell for in the first place. The paradox that Socrates understood is this: power doesn't come from seeking it, but from being the kind of man who doesn't need it from anyone else. The moment you stop seeking her favor and start seeking your own form, not the form of your body, but the form of your essence, you become magnetic in a way that transcends physical attraction. You become the kind of presence that commands respect without demanding it, that inspires loyalty without begging for it. Most men today are not at peace because they are at war with a lie. They tell themselves that her love will save them, that her body will cure their restlessness, that her smile is a substitute for selfhood. This is not love, this is intoxication, and every philosopher knows the drunk cannot see clearly. When your gaze is clouded by need or longing, she sees what you cannot. Your weakness, your desperation, your willingness to betray yourself for her approval. But the man trained in reason, the man who has interrogated his own desires, who has stared down his thirst and unmasked the illusion before it seduced him, that man does not drown. He sails. She will respect him not because he is cruel, but because he is clear. She will follow him not out of submission, but out of selection, choosing to align with strength rather than manage weakness. The greatest gift you can give a woman is not your devotion, but your development. Not your worship, but your wholeness. Not your need, but your choice. When she knows that you could walk away and still be complete, that your fire burns independently of her presence, that your mission continues regardless of her participation, then and only then does she feel free to love you without the burden of completing you. This is the secret the world will not tell you the truth, buried under mountains of romantic propaganda and feminine primary social conditioning. You were not made to kneel at the altar of affection. You were made to stand at the gates of truth and guard them with your life. Your strength is not in overpowering her, it's in outgrowing the need for her to define you. Let her be mystery. Let her be paradox. Let her be woman. But you be man in the Socratic sense, measured, examined, enduring, unmoved by flattery, unbroken by rejection, undistracted by the glitter of what fades. Do not chase her attention, cultivate presence. Do not chase her body, master your appetites. Do not chase her love, offer your truth, and let her respond as she will. The man who depends on her warmth to feel whole has no fire of his own. The man who bends his will to preserve her affection will eventually break, and she will not pick up the pieces, not out of cruelty, but out of nature, because even she is looking for a man who does not need her, but chooses her with full awareness of what she is and what she is not. She is not your therapist, your savior, or the mirror you use to see if you matter. If you want her to see you, then stand where men rarely stand, in solitude and discipline, in mastery without the need to be seen at all. The shortest way to live with honor is to be in reality what you would appear to be. And what does every man want to appear to be? Strong, wise, desired, respected. But how many are willing to do what it takes to actually become that? This is the examined life Socrates spoke of. Not just examining your thoughts, but your motives. Not just your philosophy, but your posture. Not just knowing what the soul is, but knowing what your soul does when confronted with beauty, temptation, and rejection. Because that moment when she tests you, when she pulls away, when she withholds, that is the sacred trial, the arena where most men fall to their knees and betray their own throne. But not you. You stand, you hold, you choose reason over reaction. You understand that she is not the obstacle, she is the signal. If her affection shatters your focus, the weakness was already in you. If her silence breaks your spirit, that silence was always yours to fill. Do not resent her for being what nature made her. Study her, learn her, respect her design without surrendering to it. She is wind, uncatchable, changeable, wild. But you are the mast. You do not rage when the wind shifts. You adjust your sail. That is manhood, not control, not conquest, but unbreakable orientation. When you are unshaken, she will feel it, not in fear, but in awe. And she will know this one cannot be moved. And when she knows you cannot be moved, she will do what her nature demands. She will orbit not out of submission, but selection, not as a prize to your posture, but as a response to your power. For women in the truest sense do not fall for men, they align with them. They mirror strength, not sympathy. They follow rhythm, not words. They seek not the flame that dances frantically for attention, but the one that burns steadily with its own purpose. The kind of man a woman cannot leave is not the richest, not the most handsome, not the most poetic. It is the man who could walk away and still be whole, because the moment she senses you cannot walk, that your soul is chained to her presence, that your fire dims when her light withdraws, she knows you are no longer fire at all. You are a candle, flickering, fragile, and ultimately forgettable. But the man who holds his line, who smiles through rejection, who continues his mission regardless of her mood or movements, that man becomes a gravity she cannot help but feel, even when she runs. You were not made to kneel at the altar of affection. You were made to stand at the gates of truth and guard them with your life. This is what Socrates taught, not with slogans, but with sacrifice. In his final moments, he chose death over dishonor, silence over compromise, truth over comfort. The woman is not the battlefield, she is the mirror, the test, the tension that reveals your fault lines. Most men fail because they were never taught that the feminine is not here to complete your soul, but to challenge it. If you embrace that challenge, she becomes the forge that strengthens you. If you resist it, she becomes the flame that consumes you. Do not ask her to be simpler, become wiser. Do not ask her to stay, become the man she doesn't want to leave. Do not ask her to soothe your wounds, heal yourself so deeply that your scars become scripture. In the end, Socrates gave no commandments. He asked questions sharp enough to pierce illusion, to wake the soul, to strip away every mask we wear. And if you dare to follow that path, you will lose things, illusions, addictions, entitlements. But what you gain is everything: clarity, that rarest virtue in an age of noise. Calm, the kind of stillness that cannot be manipulated. And power, not over others, but over yourself. Let them call you cold. Let them call you distant. Let them say you are too detached, too logical, too firm. These are the cries of a world that fears men who cannot be bent, because such men do not obey trends, do not fall to temptation, do not sell their soul for a kiss. They stand not because standing is easy, but because falling is no longer an option. And in that stance, you become a beacon. Other men will see you and remember who they were meant to be. Rise without rage, rise without apology, rise without fear, not against her, but for yourself. Do not run from her tests. Do not resent her power. Simply meet it with something greater, your own unshakable being. And when you do, the game ends, the illusions die, and the soul ascends. The world does not need louder men. It needs clearer ones.